Hi, welcome to Empower Her. My name is Priya, and I have a very special guest with me today, Elizabeth Cordova. Hi, how are you, Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm doing well, thank you. And feel free to call me Ellie.
Awesome. I have Ellie here with me because I connected with her on LinkedIn. And basically, I was just really intrigued by not only her, obviously, her amazing career history and then the career path she's on, but also the life she's leading in other areas of her life as well. And I just wanted to have her here because I obviously wanted to get your perspective on, women in the corporate world and, how basically you have been successful, how you have grown through your career as well, what have you learned, and then also a little bit about, the life currently you're leading as well. And then just some words of inspiration for other women, I guess, who are kind of like maybe in the same career path, maybe not, maybe it's just something that, they can learn from another woman, and especially a woman in a leadership role as well. If you can give like a quick introduction about yourself to the audience, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me, Priya. It's good to be here. My name is Elizabeth Cordova, but I do go by Ellie. I was born and raised in New Mexico. Went to college, did my undergrad in Seattle area. I'm a Husky, and then did my MBA back at the University of New Mexico. I've had a very diverse career. I've done a lot of different things. Worked in small business and nonprofit. I've done a lot of project management. But throughout my career, I've been customer facing, and that's really kind of where my focus has been. I love working with customers. I love building relationships and helping people to achieve their goals. And so, about 4 years ago, I pivoted into the SaaS world in customer success, which just felt like the perfect fit with my background in customer success and project management. I also, again, love helping people achieve their goals, has driven me into people leadership as well. So my last role was director of customer success with a SaaS company in the technical SEO world. We'll get more into it later, but on the personal side, I'm currently a nomad. I'm van lifing and moving around the country and really enjoying the flexibility that the changing, world of work has with more remote work options, with the availability of just, Wi-Fi, take your laptop, you can work anywhere. So really trying to take advantage of that and focus on work life balance and also work life integration, right? Like, how can I build a life that incorporates everything that I need while allowing
Mhm.
me to like pursue my best happiness?
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. So let's get into it. Let's start a little bit about, obviously the current field that you're in, customer success. Um, what does that mean to you specifically? What's your definition of success?
Yeah, I love customer success because, like I said, I feel like it combines some of my top skills, right? Like, it's really kind of like project management plus customer facing work and relationship development. And I love the way that the discipline is kind of coming up in the SaaS world, right? That it's an opportunity to be not just reactive with customers, like customer support, but to be proactive, right? To say, these are really important parts of our business. How do we build a relationship with them? How do we make sure that they have value? You've probably heard of customer success referred to as like the quarterbacks within an organization. And I really like that analogy. I like to think of it as, I have all these resources and all these different amazing people I get to work and collaborate with. How do we come together to get the customer what they need to make sure that they're seeing value, that they're happy? You've probably also heard like multi-threading a lot, and we talk about multi-threading within a customer organization. I recently went to a meetup for women of customer success, and we talked about really thinking about multi-threading as both an external and an internal effort. So not only are you, building relationships with various stakeholders at the customer, but you're doing the same internally too, right? So I really like that thought as well. That teamwork makes the dream work is a tacky phrase, but it's my favorite phrase. And so really thinking about, how do I build the connections within my organization so that we can collaborate successfully for the customer?
Amazing. So, when it comes to leadership roles, obviously, it's not an easy role, especially when once you transition into it, because initially maybe you're working as like an individual contributor, and then if you move into like a management role where you're responsible for a team, what does that look like? What kind of things did you have to like change in your mindset maybe when you moved into the leadership role? How did you manage that?
Yeah, I think so. I was really lucky, to be honest, in my career, that my career kind of like drove to that place. Having done a lot of project management, while I know I wasn't necessarily the direct, supervisor for a lot of people I was working with, I've always kind of led people resources, right, to support projects. I've also had the opportunity to be kind of unofficially a people manager, like a team lead and things like that. So the way I looked at it is when it got time to become a people leader, I had all the pieces. I was like 95% there, right? And that's actually how I sold it in my interview for that role. Because they were like, you've never done this before. So how are you going to do this now? And I was like, but I've done everything but, right? I've led teams. I've managed resources from a human perspective. I've, done day-to-day operational management for teams, for like busy leaders who had multiple departments they were overseeing. And so that was one thing, right? Is really looking at my career as being a build up to the people leadership side, which I think we all have that type of experience, right? If you're willing to look at it that way and think about it. I also, you know, maybe it's not the ideal way to get there, but I learned how to be a people leader from some people who I didn't want to be like, and I see that, as a silver lining of some situations, maybe working with folks that made me realize what kind of leader I didn't want to be. But that had helped me to really think through like what would my personality as a people leader be, both in terms of good things I'd seen, but also things I didn't like, right? And that I wanted to change and do differently for people that I had the opportunity to work with. Um, Finally, I would say I was very lucky. My first people leadership role was within a large university system, which can be bureaucratic, but it also was resource rich for new leaders. So I did, have the opportunity to work within an organization that had lots of L&D opportunities for new leaders, classes I could take with other new managers, mentors who'd been leaders for a really long time. I had an amazing HR team that I got to work with who supported me every step of the way. So I did have a lot of support and guidance as I stepped into that, and I'm really grateful for that as well.
Amazing. So, how would you describe your management style or your leadership style?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's maybe a little cliche, but but I like the term servant leadership. I really do. One of the reasons that I enjoy management is because I feel like it is an opportunity to help others. Right? I'm not big on like hierarchy, right? It's not about that. It's not like I'm in charge or anything. It's more this really great responsibility of having the opportunity to be part of other people's journeys. And it is really rewarding. I am child free by choice, as I think we're going to discuss more later as well. But it's almost like a parenting role, right? Of an opportunity to say, hey, like my job is to support you, help you be your best self professionally. Um, you know, Support and encourage you where you're doing well, but also give you that critical feedback where maybe you're not doing as well so that we can work together on how to improve in those areas. I really believe that feedback is a gift, both positive and critical, because how can we improve ourselves if we don't know what areas we need to work on? And have
Yeah.
someone who's there to like bring resources to address those things to the table. So I really enjoy that. I find that really rewarding as well. And I always tell like a new direct report, My job is to help you achieve your goals and be successful, both within the context of this company, right? Like I want you to succeed in your job and get recognition and have growth opportunities and bonuses or whatever, whatever the reward system looks like in your role. But I also see it as a responsibility to help you reach your long-term goals, right? So if you love customer success, but you see yourself growing into product eventually, I want to help you do that too, right? Because I do see leadership as an opportunity to support someone, and to me that's a really big responsibility, and it's more than just success today, it's success long term, and how can I help you achieve that?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So if I ask, okay, if you had to name like one skill any good leader should have, what would that be?
One.
Just one. I know there's so many, but if you had to like, if you had a choice of just picking
Yeah,
one skill.
I would say I would say the ability and the willingness to meet people where they are. Meaning, I definitely, again, look at leadership as something where you put your own ego aside, right? And so from day one, meeting a new direct report, I want to know what is their communication style? What kinds of needs do they have? Are you a texter? Are you, you like to Slack, you like to jump on a video call, whatever. I think that's really critical, is to be able to like understand people. So it's empathy, of course, but it's also a conscious effort to be what people need you to be for them, right? It's not about me and my communication style. It's about you and how I can get you what you need to be successful. I think if a great leader can really do that, really be flexible to the needs of the people they're working with, be empathetic to who they are as people, that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, I think I had heard someone say that when you're working as like an individual contributor, not in management role specifically, you're like working for yourself, you're putting yourself first. But when it's a team that you're leading, you have to put their needs before yourself, and that's something that a lot of people learn when they go into a leadership role. So yeah, I think that's something that kind of resonates with what you were saying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
um okay. All right, so when it comes to women empowerment, obviously this podcast is all about uplifting women, supporting women. um are there any efforts that you've seen maybe in the organization that you work with? If not, what are you hoping to see maybe in the future, um, with organizations that that's something that they can do to empower and support women?
Another big question. So, I would say that this is especially relevant to me in the context of customer success. And I really had some great conversations recently at that meetup for women of customer success, where we were talking about, as companies are realizing more and more that retention is absolutely critical, right? Long term growth is all about retaining customers. And that's where the bulk of your business is. That's where the security of your business is. Customer success is also a discipline that is heavily female, right? And obviously, there are all kinds of people in customer success, but I do see a lot of women there. I think we're very drawn to it because it combines those skills that a lot of us really are strong in, right? The relationship development, empathy side of things, but then also that like highly organized, staying on top of things, planner sort of mentality is often something that women have together. I'm like that. And I think the nice thing is we're seeing more and more that customer success, you know, is becoming its own thing within organizations. Some orgs it's under like the revenue office, it's under sales or product, but more and more we're seeing it broken out as its own thing, and we're seeing more and more CCOs, chief customer officers at organizations. So the way that I see this is an unprecedented opportunity for women to grow into executive positions, right? Um, I hate to say this because I told you earlier, like I don't like to focus on the negative, right? But oftentimes you look at the C-suite on a company's website, and there's either not any women, or they're only women, or maybe marketing or HR. And so I think this is a way that we're bringing women more and more into those executive positions. So I do think it's a huge opportunity. In terms of empowering women, you know, every human is very different, but I think there are a lot of social reasons why women sometimes struggle, growing into leadership roles. Sometimes we've been taught, to get along with everybody or not advocate for ourselves and be selfless and all of that, which are reasons why we're so good at customer success too. But that's something I do mentor a lot of women in their careers. And, you know, I hope you don't mind the expression. I came up with this term that I use with these women a lot. I say practice makes penis. And I hope it's okay to say that on your
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But,
That's totally fine.
cool, cool. Because, like, it's not vulgar, right? But I say that because it really, it's something that you get it right away when you hear that, right? Like in our society, men are often taught to just go for whatever they want and to be, direct about that. You often hear about, if a man sees a job opportunity, he might apply for it if he only has one of the requirements, whereas a woman looks at it and says, oh, I need all of these. I don't possibly qualify for this. Right. And so that's why I talk to like my mentees and say, hey, practice makes peanuts. Like you got to get used to just going after what you want, not aggressively and not inappropriately or anything like that. But it's okay to be direct and clear in your goals and to go after those. And women are not taught to do that quite as much as men. So I think
Yeah.
one of the ways to really empower women in the workforce is to provide them with great mentors and make sure that they're, being told to seize the opportunities, to go after what they want, to set clear goals, and to ask for those things.
Mhm. Yeah, I think yeah, you're absolutely right. I think one of the reasons is also like, most women are usually perfectionists as well. So, we're always like striving to be perfect. If we are applying for a job, we want to be like perfect for it. We want to like meet all the requirements. Like, okay, I'm perfect for this role. Now I can apply. So yeah, there is that, sense of perfectionism, that usually men don't usually have that. As you said, they're okay. They're like, oh, well, why not? Why can't I do it? So yeah, there's definitely like that need to like maybe change that mindset. Um, and then another part that I feel is, a lot of women, they're just not taught to like speak or
Mhm.
be loud, or even like, these are maybe not the terms that are said in a nice way, where, if we say something about ourselves, we're like, oh, I don't want to, toot my own horn. Why
Yep.
not?
Yeah. Uh,
Toot it.
yeah. I think one thing
Yeah,
that
it's
can,
like,
oh, sorry.
hey, go ahead.
I was going
Go
to say, I
ahead.
think something that can really help with that is coming up with phrases that you're comfortable and keeping those top of mind. Right. So it may not be natural for you to say, like, oh yeah, I rocked that. But maybe you're comfortable saying, I'm proud of this, right?
Mhm.
Or, I really enjoyed that, or whatever it is. Find something that makes you more comfortable. So for me, proud is something that I'm very comfortable saying. So if I need to toot my own
Mhm.
horn, instead of just coming out and blaring it, I'll be like, one thing I was really proud of in this situation or whatever. It helps me to frame
Mhm.
it in a way that feels like, I guess, a little more humble or something. But, I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
whatever that is for you, coming up with your mechanism that, using this terminology, I feel more comfortable. And then putting yourself in a position to use that more and more and more so that you get more comfortable and get in the habit of being comfortable saying those things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think another thing, I mean, that has helped me personally in doing that is like seeing other women do it. So
Mhm.
if I see other women like talking about themselves, like, even saying like, oh, I'm proud of myself for doing this, or like, oh, like, I did this and I did that, it really made me feel like, okay, this is something that, I was
Mm.
able to do. And, even I can do that. It is allowed. I'm allowed to do those things. So that's something that, that kind of helped me in, starting to change that. So when it comes to, mentorship, as you mentioned, was there any specific person, or were there, maybe multiple people, or maybe a community that helped you with, learning, and maybe just getting support from a mentor, or any other people that supported you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel so lucky. I've had so many incredible mentors. I look back. So another kind of unique perspective I have is that I am a huge fan of aging. I am in my 40s. I turned 40 last year, and I was ecstatic to turn 40. When I find a gray hair, I'm like excited about it. And I love to share that with people too, because we're all aging, right? And if we can either look at it as a beautiful thing or as a tough thing, right? And I look at it as a beautiful, amazing thing. The reason I bring that up in this context, though, is the heart of that mentality I can trace back to my childhood, to being, as young as like elementary and middle school, and having women in my life who were in their, 50s, 60s, 70s, who were just powerhouse women, the kind of women that were comfortable with themselves, knew who they were and what they wanted, went out and did what made them happy. They didn't care what other people thought. And to me, those were the most beautiful women in the world. And I wanted to be like them. And so for my whole life, I've been looking forward to middle age and older, right? Because I'm like, yeah, I see that pathway. I see how over time you get to know yourself better. You get to be more and more comfortable in your own skin and being who you are. And, you don't have time in your life for people who can't accept for you, for you, well, you for who you are. There we go. So those are probably some of the most powerful mentors in my life. My grandmother was like that. She traveled solo internationally long before that was something that women did. And she loved to go dancing, and she went out dancing like 2, 3 nights a week because
Wow.
that brought her joy, and that was how she stayed in shape. Um, and she was always dating a number of men. And I was like, man, my Nana's so popular.
Nice.
She's like, she's
Yeah,
got
that
guys
I mean
following
that
her.
sounds like a very exciting life. I would love to do that. Like
Yep.
traveling internationally solo and dancing every other night, and then, just dating and,
Yeah,
having fun.
she had this great full life, and even after my grandfather passed away, she had a whole other chapter.
Mm.
There was another woman, she was my sewing teacher in high school, and she was a cancer survivor, and she in her backyard, she had shards of pottery everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. She's like, oh, it's not decoration, it's function. And she would just go buy like cheap dishware sets. And to release like anger, she would go out in her backyard and throw things at the wall. And like, she was doing
Okay.
the rage room long before rage rooms were a thing, right? And
Wow.
this is how I like get that emotion out, and this is how I help like process it in a healthy way. So knowing women like that, I was like, I always want to be like that. So for me, that was the foundation of mentorship, was just powerful, amazing women who are confident and comfortable. And I wanted to be
Mhm.
that. And I've spent my life trying to grow to be that. So maybe I've created a self-fulfilling prophecy, but I definitely feel that like as I've gotten older, it's coming true, right? I'm more and more comfortable with who I am. I don't care what anyone thinks,
Yeah.
right? In an appropriate way. Like I believe you should always be a good
Yeah, yeah,
person,
yeah. I know what
to anybody. But like, I'm just out here doing my life, and I know what I want more and more as I get older. So that's why I celebrate like every little wrinkle, every gray hair, because to me, like that stands for like becoming more and more of who I am. Professionally, I've also been lucky to have a lot of really great mentors. One of my, I think it was my second job after college, when I was a project manager for a company that did software for blood banks. My manager there, he was just phenomenal. He hired me as a project manager, even though I'd never been a project manager, but he could see that I would be good at it. He happily mentored me in the specifics of it, but he also was that kind of leader who, would give you the support you need, but then let you fly and trust you. And he really helped nurture my interest in project management and leadership, and was always willing to teach me anything that I wanted to learn. And he still to this day, I mean, that was back in 2008, I think, that I worked with him. We still keep in touch. He served as a referral for me for my MBA program a few years ago. So like he still is that like supporting me. So he's literally giving me like a lifetime of support just out of the goodness of his heart. He's retired now, but he's always there for me, and that's why I strive to be like that for anyone who needs a mentor. If there's something I can offer, sometimes just knowing that someone is in your corner is huge.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, especially because that's something that I want to explore more. Is especially men, how they support women, and how other men can learn or be aware of how you can support women, especially in the workplace, as well. So it's always like interested me whenever I hear a mentor, who's a man. Although I'm not saying that men don't do that; they definitely do it. But I think they also need to be like kind of like recognized for it, because
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
something that it's really something that should be encouraged. That's what I believe. So yeah, that's really great to hear. Um, so let's talk a little bit more about fan life because that's also something that is very
All
interesting.
right, switch gears here.
Um, yeah, yeah, because yeah, I mean that's also like a huge part of your life now, and obviously it has also, I'm sure, impacted you not only in a way that you're leading your life right now, but personally as well. You meet so many kind of people, you go to different places. So it is a completely different experience, I would say. So um, tell us about, what van life is, how did it get started? Yeah.
So van life, I live in a van. I own a Sprinter van that it was converted by Winnebago, so I didn't do the build myself. A lot of people follow the DIY van lifers. That's not me. I bought it ready to go. I actually kind of fell into van life, which is really interesting. When I meet people who are excited about van life, oftentimes they say, "Oh, I watch all the YouTubers and this and that." And I've actually never followed a van lifer on social media. I originally bought my van. Sadly, I had a dog who was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and he was my soulmate. I'd had him for 14 years, and we had about a year left together. And I thought, I'm gonna buy an RV, and like he and I can just travel and adventure sometimes and have fun and just bucket list kind of stuff during his last year.
Mm.
And we did that, and it was part time, right? I'd go for a couple weeks or a month
Yeah.
and travel. And then about a year and a half ago, my ex and I decided to break up. We just wanted different things from life, and I was living in New Mexico with him at the time. And I knew I didn't want to live in New Mexico anymore. I'm ready to kind of like explore some. I've only lived in a few places, but I didn't know where I want to live. And I already owned a
Mm.
van. And so I thought,
Mhm.
well, I guess I'll just become a van lifer for a while. So I just sort of fell into the van life. It wasn't a goal of mine. It just sort of like these pieces sort of lined up. But I thought, well,
Yeah.
I have another dog now, a little black Pomeranian named Gus. I thought, Gus and I can travel the country, have fun, explore, and figure out where we want to be next. So like I said, it's been about a year and a half now, full time living on the road. Um, I do break it up a little bit here and there. Like right now, I'm in an Airbnb in the DC area. I've stayed at RV parks. I've done camping, right? So being out in the forest with nothing.
Mm, mm,
Oftentimes I will go to cities and park at friends' houses. And so I still stay in the van, but they're kind enough to let me like use their washers and dryers. So it's a lot of different, different kind of scenarios depending on where I am. Um, but
mm,
it's been amazing. I've always enjoyed international travel and had never really thought about exploring my own country in the way that I have been. And that's been so
mm,
rewarding. Um,
mm,
Sometimes it's the little things, like I plan these big, exciting excursions and events and all that, and that's fun. But sometimes it's just on the way somewhere where, in between events, you find yourself in one of the most beautiful places you've ever seen. And that's
yeah.
really makes this, such a cool lifestyle is you just stumble onto magic sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. And then, like I said earlier, I think it's been an amazing way to really explore work life integration. And I'm currently on a career break, although I'm looking for a role now. But for the first year of van life, I was working full time out of the van. And
Mm,
again, I have Wi-Fi. I have, my laptop. I can kind of go anywhere. Um,
mm,
but again, beyond work-life balance, it really gave me the opportunity to think through again integration. So I started to kind of fall into this pattern where, of course, meetings have to happen when they have to happen.
yeah.
But I would often find that, I would work, say, like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then I would stop, take a break, drive somewhere for a few hours, have dinner, and then finish out my day at the new location. And for me, that was a really great way to get like a mental break and kind of keep my energy
Mm,
going and, do something a little bit fun and, for the personal side of things and then come back around to work. So it's been a really
mm,
fun way to kind of take an opportunity to say, how can I have my cake and eat it too? Right? Like how can I do great work with amazing people and teams and accomplish things from a professional perspective while also really focusing on my personal goals, which for me,
mm,
my number one priority is travel and experiences. I love to
mm,
see things and places and experience things. So this has allowed me to kind of do both at the same time. Yeah, and that's been a really big learning experience that I hope when I'm no longer a van lifer, I figure out how to translate into place-based living too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you made a very good point that I want to highlight, especially about like the flexibility
Mm,
and, the way you work, I guess. Because I think um, it kind of also talks about, what you said before about, when I asked about your management style, where you were like, meeting people where you are, or where they are. um, and I think that's something, that kind of mindset can also be taken up by organizations. Some
mm,
organizations are already doing that, but it would
mm,
be great if, more organizations start doing it, where they start meeting people where they are. So,
mm,
you know, everybody's needs are different. Maybe there's a person like you who enjoys traveling and, needs that flexibility, and you're like, okay, this is the best way I work. This is how I'm productive. Where, I can work in the morning, take a break, and then, work again. Somebody else might need something different. They're like, no, I work great if I work like, an 8 hour shift, like 9 to 5,
yeah, yeah,
without any breaks. So, yeah, I think that's something that, a lot of organizations do need to realize, that, okay, this is something that we should start adopting. So, yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because, yeah, me myself, I'm also like a similar way, because I've been working from home since, like, I think when COVID started,
Yeah.
And after that, my routine completely changed.
Mhm.
And, I started enjoying, you know, doing things with like that flexibility. I would also like, just go to the gym in between, take a break, and then come back and
Yeah.
then work. And yeah, it just made me like more productive and just more focused, I would say. So yeah, I think that's something that definitely needs to be done more.
Yeah. Well,
So
I think it's a win-win too, right? It's not
mm,
just about what people need, which is really important because we work our best, right, when our needs are being met and we're the most productive and efficient.
yeah.
But also, companies are more and more global now every day, right? And especially working in customer success, we have clients all over the world. And
Yeah.
sometimes we have customer success folks all over the world too, but sometimes we don't, right? Sometimes our whole CS team is based in the US. So some of us are working with people in Australia and China and Japan and Mozambique and Ecuador and whatever. And so
Mm,
the flexibility supports the company too, right? If you allow
mm,
people to kind of think through, you know, given the time zone my customers are in and the things that I need to accomplish, when does it make sense for me to work?
yeah.
I've done shifts that were overnight because I had like a day long retreat with people in India. So I was working,
Mm,
you know, 2 a.m. kind of thing
mm,
and then
yeah.
with sleep during the day. So that was, partly for my flexibility to my needs, but also flexibility to my clients and their needs. So I think,
Mm,
especially in client facing roles, when there's a global presence, that kind of flexibility supports the company too. To be able to say, yeah, do what you need to do. If it's got to be a 2 a.m. call, like we get, you're not going to be on it at 8 a.m. in the morning or whatever that is, and let people incorporate their life into life, but also their work into life and make sure that their clients are getting everything they need.
mm. Absolutely. So, when it comes to van life, if if you had to give advice to someone, for example, if I say, okay, I'm really inspired by van life and I want to do it, um, what's the advice that you would give me?
Um, so I'll give the advice that I didn't take, and I'm glad that it worked out. um, like I said, my dog was ill, so I wanted to jump right into it, and I just went for it and bought a van right away. If you can, I would say rent. Like there are like sites, like I think there's one called Outdoorsy where people rent out their RVs and like camper vans and such.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
do that for a week or two. It's expensive, but buying a van is very expensive too.
Oh yeah.
And kind of see how you feel about it. Right, the lifestyle is not for everybody. There are ways that you're way more hands on with the nitty gritty of daily life than you might be in, say, an apartment. The
Mm,
things that you take for granted in your home, right? So if you want to wash your hands, you just turn on the faucet. If I want to wash my hands, I have to make sure that there's actually water in the tank. If I want to go to the bathroom, like I need to make sure that I keep the toilet empty. I need to make sure that the batteries are charged so that I can turn the lights on and I can use my Wi-Fi and all of that. And
mm,
so it is a lot of mental labor living in a van. So I would
mm,
say try that out and see how you feel about it. Um,
mm.
Lots of
Yeah.
people love it, and
Yeah.
it's been great for me. Although I also don't see doing that forever
Mhm.
because it is a lot. You also are always thinking about where am I going to park next? Is it going to be
Mm,
safe? How long do I
mm,
have to drive to get there? Do I need to plug in when I'm there? All of those things. So there's a
mm,
daily planning also that happens that you don't do in your normal life. So if you
yeah.
have an opportunity, I'd say rent a van, or if your friend has one and you can borrow it, or even just go with them for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of see how you feel about it before you dive right in, because there are people who have gone all in and then realized it was not for them.
Yeah. 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 I think that's absolutely valid, and yeah, I think that's great advice. Um, so let's move forward.
Okay.
Okay, so um, when it comes to being child free, as you mentioned before, so we'll go into that topic now. Um,
Yeah.
how did that? How did you come to that decision? And when did that happen?
Yeah. So it's complicated, right? I think those of us who are, say in our 30s or older now, were raised in a very different time. I think when people thought about these things much differently than we do now. Um, so I think there's a part of me that always knew I didn't want children. And yet I think the social messaging that you might regret that, you might change your mind, it's really important, made me really think seriously about it. So I actually didn't fully decide for sure that I would not bear children until I was 38, 39 years old. Even though I think I kind of always knew, there was always that part of me that was like, well, but what if I do change my mind? Or what if I want that? And you'll even notice I still say bear children because I don't know where life is going to take me. Maybe adoption is in my future. I'm not planning it. I don't see that necessarily, but I try to still remain open to whatever the future holds for me. Um, but yeah, I think it's getting a little bit easier for women to say that now, to say, "Oh, hey, I don't want children," without people questioning it. But it was very ingrained in me that I needed to take that decision very, very seriously, and so I took a long time to officially say that that was, not going to be in the cards for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it goes back to what you mentioned about aging. I think age plays a role in that definitely because, as you said, you become more confident in things that you want. You discover things about yourself. You get to know yourself. Like, okay, this is what I want. This is not necessarily what I want in my life, and you slowly become confident in saying those things and actually vocalizing those things to other people, even if if you get questions or even if you get some I would say like you know um, judgments as well. But it's all about discovering what you want and confident talking about it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, even now, yes, obviously society has definitely changed a little bit, and we are definitely evolving. But it's not necessarily, I would say, open. People are not
Yeah.
usually, that open with, a different mindset that other people might have, and you know, that's why a lot of women don't talk about it. They don't feel comfortable. They kind of know that okay, if I'm gonna say this, I'm probably gonna get judged for it,
Yeah.
or people are gonna ask me questions. People are gonna be like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And that's why a lot of women necessarily just stay quiet, um, or maybe even go through with just having the child because that seems much more easier, which is obviously. Um, yeah, very mind-boggling, I would say, because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, that's much more easier. I'm just gonna have a kid instead of like fighting with my family or just
Well,
yeah,
and I
taking
think
all
that,
that judgment from society.
I obviously don't have any problem with people having children. I'm not anti-children. I think they're
Yeah,
wonderful. I think it's a really beautiful journey for the people who want to
yeah,
do that, right? Obviously, I have lots of friends who have kids. I adore their children,
mm,
and I get to be part of their lives as an auntie. Um,
mm,
and those friends are incredibly happy, right? This is what they wanted. This is the realization of their life and their dreams, and I love that for them and support them. One of my
mm,
girlfriends struggled to get pregnant, and I cried with her when when that happened for her. So
mm,
I think it's just all about our unique journeys. And I think to your point, I am someone who's very comfortable with who I am, if that's not clear. Who's very confident in my decisions and,
Yeah.
perfectly happy to pursue my happiness and whatever that looks like.
Mm,
And I
mm,
think it's a small thing, but one of the things that I can do since I am lucky enough to be in that position is to just say it, right? To tell people those things. To be, if I'm comfortable saying like I'm choosing not to have children, that may make
mm,
someone else feel more confident saying that too, and knowing that there's support out there. Same
mm.
with I decided to be a van lifer. I'm not trying to change anyone's lives or make them want to be a van lifer, but I would love to think that maybe someone makes a decision for themselves because they saw that someone else was doing that. And any way that I can be part of someone else's journey being satisfying is great.
Yeah, it's that, you know, it's about giving that other people a sense of like, okay, there are also other people who are doing this, and they are doing this, and that can be done. So whether it's like van life, if a woman is like, I don't know, I don't know any other women who are doing this, so maybe this is not possible, and
Yeah.
yeah, let's just leave it. And then you maybe you see other women talking about it, or actually women doing it, and then you kind of become confident. Okay, if she can do it, I can do it as well. So
Yeah.
it's that sense of um, representation, I guess. um, and then when it comes to being child free, um, yeah, there's other thing that you mentioned, where people, when you say something like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you hate like, well, no, I'm gonna have children. No, that's not it. Just means I love kids, and I enjoy kids, I enjoy children, and yeah, if you want to do it, go ahead, I'm gonna support you, but that does not mean that I'm gonna have it too, because
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, it doesn't make any sense. But for you, I mean, that's great. Nobody's like stopping you from doing it. It's about, you know, just making sure that everybody knows it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's not something that is, you know, mandatory that, oh, if you're getting married, you have to have kids.
It's a
It's a
big
choice.
it's a big decision, and I think the more that I talk to women who are child free by choice, um, the more I hear, and I think we all kind of always knew that wasn't going to be for us. So I think, just trusting yourself, following your own instincts is really important. Um, for my whole life, when I have heard of childbearing and child rearing, all I see is the negative side of it for me, right? Like I'm like, oh, pregnancy sounds horrible. Like um, raising children costs a lot of money, and like you are responsible for this human. Um, which again, it's not to say that's truth. It's just my truth, right? Like I've only ever really seen the hard part of it because that's I guess my psyche, right? How I'm built. I know that other women sometimes feel like, wow, pregnancy, I want to experience that. I want to feel that. I want to, do that with my body. That's this very special experience.
Mm,
Lots and lots of women are like raising children, the love that you give and seeing them, grow up into these functional humans and being part of that and having that be a legacy for you. That's beautiful too, right? So I think some of it is just in our perspective and what we want value and we want to do. And I think we all kind of have those instincts or don't, right? From relatively young age. The question is just whether or not we can trust what our gut is telling us that it's not something for us. But you hear all the time, you're going to regret this, and
mm,
I just don't see that for me. I would much rather regret not having children and fill my life with other things than, God forbid, regret having children, right? Because that's
mm.
that's a very difficult decision to walk away from.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that, like, you and I have chatted about this before, but me coming out and saying I don't want children, I'm hearing now from some of, like, you know, like elders in my family and stuff, women who are saying, yeah, I really kind of didn't want kids either. Right. But it wasn't a choice for me back when I was, thinking specifically of one family member who's in her 80s now. And I think holding multiple truths is really important, right? I think when people think of a woman saying she regrets having children, it means she hates her kids or her life is miserable or something. And that's my family member has been a sorry, I got to plug in. She's been a terrific mother and she adores her children and she has this big beautiful family. But it's also okay for her to say, if I'd had choices, I think I probably wouldn't have done that. And I think that's something that people really struggle with is, an assumption that if someone says they don't want to have kids or they wish they hadn't had kids, that means they hate children or they made bad decisions or something. But there are different pathways that we could all follow, right? And saying that one path might have been more satisfying doesn't mean that you're unhappy on the path that you're on. I think it's really important to like open that space for people to be able to say that, to say, yeah, like I wish I hadn't. Because that again kind of highlights like make the choice that's right for you, choose the path that works for you, and then make the best of whatever path you land on, right? Because that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad path, it's just where you've chosen to be.
Yeah, I think that's what it's about. Where it's not necessarily so black and white.
Yeah.
It's it can be just a gray area.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be this or that. And
Yeah.
a lot of
I mean,
times that's how people feel when they realize that maybe they didn't have that choice then, but they have now. For example, like, maybe when women were not voting before, now they're voting. So maybe, your great grandmother and grandmother, they might say, oh, like, I don't know what I would do if I had that choice
yeah.
now. So it's all about that mindset. And so yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because yeah, we definitely need to be more open towards how people feel about it, how women feel about it.
It's complicated.
um
It's a big thing.
yeah,
Like, and people
yeah.
often say, but you would make such a good mother. And again, I think I probably would have been a great mother. I'm not
Hmm.
denying that. That doesn't mean that I have to do that, per se.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, and so let's talk about what's next for you. So whether it's let's first actually talk about your career. What do you see yourself in the next couple of years? What are your goals?
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm on the job market right now. I took a few months off after, you can kind of piece together from our conversation. I had a lot of changes in my life last year, and so coming into 2024, I decided to take about it's at the 6 month mark where I was like, all right, I think I'm ready to get back into it. But the 6 months was amazing to recharge and enjoy life. And I wish everyone could have the opportunity to take a career break. I think it's huge to support yourself in that way if you can. Um, but it's also giving me time to really think about what's next. And a lot of my career has been in small business, startup environments. I really love that. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. Again, I sort of alluded to that. I've done a lot of different kinds of things. So I like that kind of scrappy environment where everybody's pitching in and bringing their skills to the table and, just working together as a team to build something great. So I am looking for an opportunity to join a very early stage startup. I would love to join like even in seed round or like Series A SaaS company where I have an opportunity to, jump in and really help build something amazing. I think that's an opportunity to be part of growing something, but it's also an opportunity to be part of something great for the people that are doing it. I want to
Mhm.
build an amazing company and product for the market, but I also think it would be fantastic and a great point of pride to say I helped build a culture that's fantastic for the people that work there. And it's a good place to be successful and achieve your goals. So that's the dream right now, is to find an early stage startup. And I work best in more technical. Like I was in technical SEO recently. Um, Background in marketing and healthcare, so probably something in that space. But if I've learned anything in my career, it's you should like what you do, but also like the people that you're doing it with. And so,
Yeah.
I'm looking for great leaders to support and to learn from. And I'm also looking for a culture that, is very people focused, and it's a place where everyone enjoys each other and wants to go to work and spend time together 8 hours a day.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so with the, obviously right now, since you're like searching for opportunities, I think it's a benefit if, any of the audience is also maybe doing the same. Um, how do you go about, looking for those opportunities? Do you, just, find those opportunities maybe, obviously on these websites that have, these job openings, or do you reach out to your network? When it comes to especially early startup, um, they are not necessarily, I would say, they don't advertise that much about job openings, so it's tough to find, those kind of jobs. So how do you go about that?
It's a good question, and I'm learning it as I go. I'll start by saying clearly I'm a fan of customer success, but one of the things that I love about customer success is the community is so supportive, right? And I mean, you and I met through LinkedIn, and I love like CS people are just like really good people who want to help other people. It doesn't feel competitive or like anyone's gatekeeping anything. It's very, oh, you're looking for a job. Let me help you out. What can I do? Can I make introductions? I've even made friends with people who are looking for the same roles. So, I mean, technically we are in competition, but we're just supporting each other, cheering each other on, giving each other advice and help and support. So that's one thing that's been huge, being part of just a community that helps each other out and provides support for one another. To your point, yeah, these roles are not often advertised. So I think networking is absolutely critical. Some of the founders that I've met have been connections on LinkedIn where I've, reached out and to learn more about what they have going on. Founders are often connected to founders, especially like new founders. If they're getting some kind of funding, a lot of times they're being, asked to attend like workshops to learn certain things or whatever. So a lot of the folks that I've known have like introduced me to others in the same space. Oh yeah, like I was with so and so at this like funding thing, and they said they're looking for CS people, that kind of thing. There are, some of the VCs do have people who look for talent to keep on their rosters, to recommend to, their fundies as they're growing. Y Combinator has stuff. There's some different places like that. But honestly, networking and introductions, most of the opportunities I found have been through mutual connections on LinkedIn.
Mhm. Okay, makes sense. Um, and when it comes to, your personal life, what do you see in the future? Are you, do you still want to do van life for the next couple of months, years, or do you see that changing to something else, or what's your goal with that? Yes.
Yeah, so like I said, van life has been amazing, and to be able to say that I've done this is so cool. Like, what a neat experience. But it is mentally very taxing, and I say for the last few months I've started to feel the urge to slow down and stabilize myself a little bit. So I'm on the hunt right now for a place to live. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking probably Q1 of 2025 is when I'll do that. So my my first year or so of van life was very, very nomadic. I didn't stay anywhere for more than a week or two, moving all over the country. This year, it's been a little bit less nomadic, I guess, where like I just spent 2 months in New York City, staying in Brooklyn to kind of get a feel for potentially moving there. I'm doing the same in DC right now. I'm going to spend the fall on the West Coast because I have a lot of family and friends over there. But I think I'm moving to the East Coast at the beginning of next year. But the job search could
Nice.
impact that too, right? I love remote work. I love the flexibility, but there are also a lot of really great hybrid opportunities out there, and I'm open
Yeah.
to those as well for sure. I do love in person collaboration as well. So yeah,
Nice.
the job search might influence where I land. So stay tuned.
Nice. All right. And so I usually end it with the question that we kind of also talked about before, but
Yeah.
basically share 5 things that you are proud of yourself about.
5 things. See, I'm like only one, and then now I have to come up with five. I'm just going to complain no matter what you ask me. Um, I think the thing that I'm probably most proud of is that I'm courageous and I embrace, being fearless in my life. I am so much more scared of like not doing things than I am of actually doing them.
Mm,
So, giving myself, permission to do what feels right. And, not everyone does that. Not everyone can do that. So I am particularly proud of that, doing things like living the van life, or before that, I was going on extended international trips and exploring different countries. Um, I hear people say, both men and women often say, oh, I don't have the courage to do what you do. Um,
mm,
so that is something I'm very proud of, that, it's not that I don't have fear, but,
mm,
that I can really evaluate and think through what's more important, the fear or the not getting the experience. Um,
mm,
I'm also very proud of my career, and both from the perspective of what I've achieved, but also from the perspective of how I've grown as a professional and really learning to understand what's important to me from a professional perspective.
mm,
I early on, like a lot of us, I think, again, I think this is social. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a CEO. I'm going to run companies. I'm going to be Fortune, whatever. And as I really learned to embrace who I am and what I want, I realized that's not who I am. I
mm,
do enjoy people leadership, but
mm,
I also really love being part of a great leader's vision, right? That's why I said like the startup world like really appeals to me. Finding a visionary and helping them achieve what they see. I'm a builder and I'm like an actioner, right? So
mm.
like you come to me and say this is what I want to do and I'm like, "Oh yeah, we can do this and this." And that's, there's nothing wrong with that. So
Yeah, yeah,
I also, like I said, culture is really important to me, and understanding what my priorities are professionally. This work-life balance, work-life integration, working with amazing people, working with leadership I can believe in, working for a cause I can believe in too. I've spent time in the nonprofit world, and
yeah.
there's something very rewarding about doing work that has an impact. Um, so yeah, like my career, but also the stepping back from what's expected and really thinking through what's best for me. Gosh, that's only two. Okay. um, I'm I also I think that's something else that I would mention. We haven't talked about it, but I am autistic. And I, like a lot of women, was diagnosed in my 30s, right? So far into my life and my development by the time I knew that. Really embracing that as not just a weakness, but also a strength is something that I'm really
Mm,
proud of. Um,
mm.
Yeah, there are definitely challenges. And one of those is that I've been able to address is, by finding people who have strengths that are opposite to my weaknesses, right? So, like, especially in the workforce, finding people to work with who balance and complement me and have strengths that I don't, so we can support each other in those things. But at the same time, it's been a great strength because I've found I'm very level headed. I don't, respond to things emotionally. And so, as a people leader, for example, what you and I talked about with meeting people where they are, that's been huge for that, right? Because I can take a step back and not get pulled into the emotional side of the situation and say, what does Priya need from me right now? Like, and how can I provide that to her? And not get caught up with it myself. So I think that was a big journey for me from diagnosis to embracing this as not just part of who I am, but one of the best parts of who I am, right? And I guess that'll lead into number 4, which is being autistic has also let me be very deliberate in planning my life and being methodical about achieving what it is that I want. And so I really am someone who is goal oriented. I always say I'm good at getting what I want, but I have to figure out what I want, and that's the hard part. But
Yeah.
pursuing again my happiness of prioritizing travel and experiences, being where I want to be, finding a career that works for my life. I've been able to do those things. I'm also in the dating world right now, and doing that very methodically as well, like thinking through what is it that I'm looking for in a partner, and how can I achieve that. So that's a big strength, I think, is goal orientation, and then being able to like thoughtfully, methodically, like project manage my life in order to achieve the things that I want to.
Yeah.
Um, Number 5 would be, I would say I'm really proud of and grateful for the community that I've built in my life. Um, Professionally through like LinkedIn, personally through friends and family. But one thing that I've really, like I said, just been so grateful for since I became a van lifer is I never feel lonely. Um, I have friends and family everywhere. I have people to talk to, and I'm the luckiest girl in the world. I get to say I have people who really love me and embrace me for who I am. That I can be myself with them. That they know me, they know who I am, and they don't judge me, and they just help and love and support. And so it's both luck, but also, that's something that I built, and that's something that embracing myself has brought as well, is really understanding who's healthy and good for my life. And now I really do. I have this incredible community, and I really hope that they feel like I'm there for them too, and showing up and supporting their lives and their choices as well. Um,
Yeah.
'Cause that's the most satisfying part of life, right? Is the people that you get to interact with and love, and who you take care of and who take care of you. And I'm pretty darn proud of that side of my life too.
Yeah. That's
Look, I did
amazing.
5.
Yeah, everybody kind of like whenever I ask that question to any of the people that I interview, they always kind of like struggle with it. They're like, "Oh, I need to say 5."
Yeah,
Like, yes, it's only 5.
I did it. I did it.
Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Yeah. But yeah, again, this was an amazing conversation. We, went through so many topics that, I wanted to discuss with you. I wanted to showcase to the audience and just put it out there for, women or even any other, um,
Absolutely.
genders. It doesn't really matter. But basically to showcase the word that yes, these are some topics that need to be spoken about. They need to be discussed. Um, and obviously, thanks for sharing your knowledge, your learnings, and challenges that you've overcome. so that other people can learn from it. And at the end, obviously, it was so nice just talking to you. And it's always just a pleasure talking to you because it always feels like such a natural, authentic conversation. It's just like, just two friends chatting with each other, just,
Yeah.
talking about everything.
I love chatting with you too, and you have this great skill of like really hearing what people are saying and then like teasing out things that you think are important. So you found a good spot for yourself here in podcast world. And I will just say, if it's not entirely clear, I'm a huge proponent of people supporting people. So if anyone watches this and feels like there's something I can do to help them, I'm more than open to, people reaching out and asking for help. If you feel like you can help me, I'm open to that too, which is another thing I'm proud of is that I can say I'm open to receiving help. I wasn't always like that.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
but I really believe it's not a quid pro quo thing. It's not you help me, I help you. I think we all give what we can and we all take what we need, and that's really what community is about. So yeah, just want to put that out there too. If anything I've
yes.
said or done is helpful to someone, like reach out. I'm happy to share my experience, offer, whatever, some help, introductions, stuff like that. And then yeah, if anyone can help me achieve my goals, I'm more than open to that too.
Amazing. Again, thank you so much, Ali. And I will see you and talk to you later again.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Priya. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.